At the beach, while my kids laughed under the umbrella, a message lit my phone. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. I felt the sting, then the steadiness that comes from raising a family and surviving harder storms. I stood up without a scene. I walked to the parking lot, chose daylight over drama, and began documenting everything: one witness, one sealed envelope, one rule: no signatures tonight. That quiet step was only the first move in a week of safety papers, a dinner that wasn't really dinner, and a proof trail my children never expected me to build. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from. The boardwalk at Pacific Beach hummed like a low, friendly engine, bikes whispering by gulls, heckling the ocean breathing in a patient rhythm. My children had chosen this Saturday to get the family together, their words, not mine. They moved in a practice cluster, one mind with 3 bodies opening chairs, staking umbrella lines, glancing over me as if I were a landmark they already knew. I told myself to enjoy the sun. The breeze salted just right, and the sound of strangers laughing. Part of the picture I thought not quite in it. They placed my folding chair behind the umbrella's shade line next to the cooler and the stack of totes. You're comfy there, Mom, close to everything, Maura said, already turning away. Lyle anchored the umbrella with the heel of his hand. Shanda shook out towels like flags. I smiled and eased into the chair that faced more bags than ocean. The sand was warm under my sandals. I noted how the umbrella's shadow cut across my knees, leaving my feet in glare. Close to everything, I repeated softly enough the wind could keep it. It started small. Mom, would you hand me the sunscreen? Then can you watch my phone? Then hold the towels while we fix the steaks. Lyle joked to a passing couple, she's our logistics chief. They laughed. I did too, because that was easier. When Shanda couldn't find the lip balm, it was in my tote because everything ends up in my tote. I took inventory without looking like I was. What's mine, what's theirs, and what is forever in between. I lined up the bottles along the cooler lid like chess pieces and told my shoulders to drop. Lyle took a call, his voice pitched for winning. No, we push by quarter's end, he said, pacing a trench into the sand. Maura squeezed a bottle into my cup electrolytes, she announced, and set it on the cooler lid. Shanda adjusted the umbrella until the fabric ruffled perfectly for photographs. Decisions moved around me like a tide where to sit, who would fetch iced coffees, what time to head to the pier. Hydrate, Mom. Maura said, not looking at me. I did because hydration is hard to argue with. I breathed and counted the ways I've kept our small constellation from scattering a casserole left on a porch, a ride to a post-op appointment, the endless patience of a retired bookkeeper who knows how to make numbers and tempers balance. When my husband died, I promised myself I would not let grief erode the shoreline of us. Today I decided to hold that line another hour. Observe, don't fight. Catalog, don't clutch. It's a skill at my age to choose which truths to let pass and which to keep. A soft dizziness skated across my forehead as slight as a gull's shadow. I blamed the sun. Maura reached into a side pouch and produced a small capsule in a clear sleeve. Heart support vitamins, she said too quickly. They're great for energy. Water is fine, I answered, smiling to make it sound like preference and not refusal. I took a measured sip and set the cup down where I could see it. The ocean glittered like something not quite sincere. My phone lit up in my bag, one vibration, no name, just a number I didn't know. I thumbed the screen. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. The words were so blunt, they felt like a hand on my elbow. Before breath could fully return, another ping. It's urgent. Your life depends on it. My heart did not race. It steadied. I looked at my children, Lyle still selling the future into his phone, Maura reorganizing what I had already organized, Shanda aligning towels to the horizon. I locked the screen and slid the phone into my pocket as if it were any other Saturday text. I'm going to stretch my legs, I said, pushing gently out of the chair. Lyle half rose, hand out. Want company? I'm fine, I said, in the tone that means I have decided. I won't go far. Shanda nodded without really seeing me. I noted the nearest pedestrian exit, a gap in the rail by the lifeguard tower, an easy drift to the boardwalk, then the public lot. I brushed the sand from my calves, slow enough to be ordinary. I folded my towel with the same care I give old photographs, looped my sandals over 2 fingers, and stepped into the stream of people moving toward tacos and sunburn relief. A kid dragged a plastic shovel. A man tried to carry too many chairs. A lifeguard announced something cheerful over the PA that no one fully heard. I waved in the general direction of the tower, a gesture that could mean anything. Ordinary is a wonderful disguise when you need it. I buttoned my resolve the way I button a cardigan, 1, then 2, then 3. Rule 1, no scenes. Not today. Rule 2, leave a breadcrumb. So I texted myself the unknown number and the words it sent, a habit I picked up long before my children believed I needed help remembering. Rule 3, trust the animal sense that kept my mother and her mother before her alive in rooms where they were being managed. The boardwalk's planks thudded underfoot as I crossed toward the asphalt brightness of the lot, the umbrella shrinking behind me to a colored dot. I left the umbrella behind me and walked toward the parking lot where a red sedan idled like a decision I hadn't made yet. Mrs. Ellery. The red sedan's window slid down, and the woman inside said my name as if she'd practiced it. She was mid-30s, hair pulled back, eyes steady. I'm Asha Rios. I used to clean at Lyle's. She didn't ask me to get in. She held her hands at 10 and 2 visible. Please don't panic. I need to tell you something that can't wait. I looked past her to the exit lane, the pay kiosk, the families loading beach chairs into minivans. I chose open air over a closed car. We'll talk out here, I said. I stayed on the passenger side where cameras might catch us. Asha lifted a small envelope and a phone. On the screen were photos forms with my name, dates, bank logos, orange pill bottles with my address on the labels. Sergio in the office said these were urgent, she whispered. I saw your lunch last week. Someone added a drop from this. My mouth went dry. I checked the dates. The day matched the family lunch at Lyle's. Verify before panic, I told myself, like balancing a ledger when a column doesn't add up. Not here, I said. Too many ears. I asked where the nearest police station was. Asha nodded toward Garnet and Mission Bay Drive. Northern Division. 10 minutes. I told her I would follow in my own car. We drove separately, keeping 2 cars between us, my hazard lights off, the afternoon bright and ordinary. I rehearsed the plain language I would use, facts, only no accusations. Public building, front desk cameras. Safer room. The lobby smelled of floor cleaner and coffee. A desk sergeant glanced up. I gave my name and asked for someone who handles elder exploitation. A detective in shirt sleeves appeared, mid-40s, careful eyes. Detective Breck Kenda, he said. We sat in a small interview room with a wall clock and 2 plastic chairs. I placed my phone face down. I'm not filing a complaint yet, I began. I'm asking for guidance and to document what I've been shown. He nodded and opened a thin notebook. Kenda took down my statement lunch date, who was present when the dizziness started, what I ate, what I refused. He asked permission for blood and hair toxicology under chain of custody. We'll collect at the clinic upstairs, he said. You'll keep a copy of the labels and the seal numbers. Shame pricked. How had my life wandered into this office? I signed the consent forms with a steady hand, writing each letter like a small backbone. Back in the room, we did quiet math. The window for any dosing, the length of symptoms, the hours since lunch. He explained how financial exploitation often walks hand in hand with chemical coercion. We look for patterns, he said. Sudden changes to signatures, witnessing, that's a little too convenient. ATM withdrawals you didn't make. I told him I was a retired bookkeeper. Patterns were my profession. We made a list of accounts to monitor without alerting anyone. I asked about leverage that didn't require a public fight. The answer broke free while I spoke a sealed letter of intent, time to release if certain conditions were met, my clear statement that if I'm coerced, my assets go to community, causes, not to anyone who pressures me. Kenda raised his brows. That can work as soft armor, he said. Not a threat, a boundary. You keep custody. We log the seal. I felt control return like air to the lungs. I called Our Lady of Refuge from the hallway. Father Kendall Pierce answered on the second ring, voice calm as a tide pool. I told him I needed a moral witness, not a mediator. I can witness your statement, he said. I won't arbitrate family conflicts. I'll record the seal numbers you read to me and file a note in our safe. No sermons, no drama, just a simple spine to hold the hour upright. Kenda connected us by speaker with my husband's estate attorney, Camden Royce. Camden listened, then dictated language for a sealed memorandum trigger events list of accounts. The sentence that mattered, I act of my own free will. He reminded me about custody. I keep the envelope on my person. A duplicate goes to his fireproof box. Bring identification when you sign, he said, and take photographs of the seals. Practical, dry, exactly the tone I needed. Outside the room, Asha sat on a bench twisting a hair tie. She stood when she saw me. I didn't touch anything, she said quickly. I just saw things I couldn't unsee. I believed her. You don't handle substances, I said. You pass information to the right people. That's it. We agreed on a simple code word, Teal, in case either of us felt unsafe. She wiped her eyes and laughed once, embarrassed. I'm a housekeeper, she said. I never thought I'd be doing this. Neither did I said. Kenda returned with a checklist for the next 48 hours. Public places only. Don't consume anything opened by someone else. Keep my routine steady. If invited to dinner, accept, but bring my own sealed water and open it myself. If there's an ask for signatures, he said smile and ask to sleep on it. He mentioned a small button microphone I could pair with my phone for lawful audio in my own home. I nodded. Facts, not fireworks. I wrote 3 lines on the back of his card I will not sign tonight. I will not drink what I didn't open. I will speak less and record more. The act of writing turned fear into policy. I tucked the card behind my driver's license. My hand stopped shaking. When I looked up, the wall clock had climbed past 2. The day had not fallen apart. It had simply become exact. By dusk, I had completed the samples, signed the memorandum at Camden's office, and called Father Pierce to read him the seal numbers. He repeated them back and filed his note. I slid the sealed envelope into my purse, felt the tiny weight of the button mic against my palm, and stepped into the soft blue of evening. A text arrived dinner at Lyle's 7 o'clock. I read it twice, then sent Asha our 3 rules in 1 line. Ordinary clothes for an extraordinary night. I dressed like any other Saturday because ordinary is the surest disguise I know. Simple navy slacks, a pale blouse that breathes and drapes enough to hide what needs hiding flats. I can move in without thinking. I emptied my purse and rebuilt it slowly. Wallet, keys, tissues, the sealed envelope, phone, a small notebook, and a pen that is just a pen to everyone but me. Before I left, I texted Asha. Ordinary is our armor. She replied with a thumbs up I could almost hear. At my kitchen table, she laid out a modest little stage of tools. The button microphone hid beneath the blouse seam. She showed me the way the clasp clicks so softly, it becomes part of the fabric. If you want extra, she said these glasses hold a camera. You don't need them if you're not comfortable. I chose not to. The pen, however, I kept 2 quick presses, sent her a nudge to check in. 3 press calls for immediate help. You won't need it, she said, but it listens to your nerves for you. We set a timer on my laptop for a simple email I wrote in plain language. If I didn't cancel by 9:30, the message would forward to Father Pierce and to Camden a brief video of me reading the seal numbers, the sentence about acting by my own free will, and the date. Insurance, not a threat. I closed the lid and felt the small courage that comes from preparing without fanfare. I said my rules out loud because the mouth convinces the bones. I will not sign tonight. I will not drink anything I did not open. I will speak less and observe more. Asha nodded, once a professional acknowledgement the kind nurses give when you name the pain correctly. Understood, she said. We stood. I tucked the envelope into the zipper pocket and practiced a smile that reveals nothing except manners. We drove toward North Pacific Beach with the windows cracked to the marine layer and the weekend traffic. The boardwalk glowed in that early evening way, all soft gold in motion. Asha reviewed our word. Teal, I repeated. My phone was set to vibrate. 1 buzz meant she was checking in. 2 meant I would excuse myself to the hallway, to the patio, to any place with sightlines. I kept my breath easy and counted the streetlights as if they were rosary beads. Lyle opened the door with a hug large enough to perform for the porch light. I let him squeeze my shoulders and kept my purse strapped snug across my body. "You look great, Mom," he said, and I could hear the script in it, warm light framing. Maura was tied into a floral apron, her hair perfect, the kitchen bright and immaculate. Shanda waved a dish towel and pointed me toward a chair near the island. I smiled, took the seat I preferred back to a solid wall view of the hallway, and set my sealed bottle of sparkling water on the counter. Houses tell the truth when people don't. The staircase angled down toward the kitchen. A throw rug lay near the landing, and a tray had already been staged with small vitamins and a pair of gummy bears for sleep. I touched my water and asked Lyle if he'd open it for me. He twisted the cap, the sound clean and sharp. I watched the ring break. I took the first sip as though it were the start of a calm, unremarkable night. "For your safety," Maura said, laying papers between us with the care of a nurse, laying out instruments. "Just basics. Emergency power of attorney. Consent so we can speak to your doctor. Bill pay authorization in case something happens." Lyle smiled in that way that means to reassure while pressing forward. "So you don't worry, Mom." Shanda placed a pen near my elbow like a party favor. The edges of the papers were crisp enough to reflect the pendant light. I placed my envelope beside their stack and tapped the wax seal with a fingertip. "This is my statement," I said. "If I ever can't speak for myself, this speaks for me. It tells exactly what I want and where things go." I didn't lift my voice. I didn't square my shoulders. I let calm do the heavy work. Shanda's eyes flicked to the seal, then back to my face as if she'd discovered I was not the version of me they had invited for the evening. "We're only trying to help," Lyle said. "Everyone's doing this now," Maura added. "It's responsible. Let's get the basics out of the way before dinner." She nudged a form a fraction closer. I slid the pen back until it aligned with the cutting board. "Dinner first," I said, "and then I'll read 1 page at a time under good light. Anything with my name deserves daylight." It sounded like a joke. It wasn't. I asked for another bottle of water, still sealed, and took my plate to the far end of the island where the light favored my eyes. I mentioned my reading glasses and the way the kitchen fixture sometimes throws a glare. Their faces were gracious, their shoulders less so. People who push will offer you politeness in place of patience. I broke a small roll and buttered it like I had all the time in the world. 1 buzz from my phone, a friendly pulse against my hip. Asha was on the curb, close enough to be helpful, far enough to be invisible. I took a small breath and asked Shanda about the greens in the salad, whether she'd found the little Persian cucumbers at the farmer's market. Normal talk is a bridge you can walk your nerves across without anyone noticing. Maura slid a thinner packet forward marked "temporary," the kind of word that wears perfume. "This would just be for the next few weeks," she said, "so nothing falls through the cracks." I traced 1 signature line with the air above my finger. "I learned bookkeeping from a man who could find a missing penny in a stack a foot high," I said. "Let's not lose sense in the rush to save sense." Lyle laughed like a man choosing magnanimity. "Dinner first then." We ate. The papers remained between us like another place setting. I let them sit visible, daring, while I asked about the new umbrella for the patio and whether the neighbor's dog was still digging under their fence. My jaw stayed soft. My spine did not. Each time a hand drifted toward the stack, I placed my water there as if it were a coaster. It's remarkable how often manners look like boundaries if you let them. They tried again, gently, with questions painted as concern. "What if there's an emergency? What if you forget a medication?" I thanked them for imagining my well-being. I explained that emergency plans belong in the daylight, with witnesses who are not on a payroll or a family tree. "Monday at noon," I said. "An hour with my attorney present. We can all sit together and make sure I understand each line." Maura smiled so brightly I could see the effort it took to hold it. I felt the weight of the pen in my purse and the seal at my hip. The house hummed its weekend hum, all refrigerator and air vent, and the faint sound of a neighbor's television through the wall. I lifted my glass of water, let their papers rest where they were, and asked one question I knew would sound harmless. I lifted my glass and asked it like small talk. If I don't sign anything tonight, how would your bills get paid this week, just so I understand the hurry? The words wore a sweater, not armor. The papers lay between us like placemats. Across the table, reactions flickered. Lyle's eyebrow climbed and then behaved. Maura's pen tapped twice. Shanda's eyes slid toward the stairs. I let the quiet work. People reveal themselves in the space they rush to fill. It's no big deal, Mom Lyle said, showing teeth without warmth. There's a utility thing Thursday. Auto pay hiccup. Like $300-400. We can spot it, but the bank needs. He stopped and reached for a carrot stick. I smiled as if he'd reminded me to bring a sweater. Thursday, I repeated mild. About $400. I gave the mic under my blouse time to keep up. That helps me see the picture. Behind them, a pale runner led to the landing. A small throw rug curled where feet turn. I eased my chair so my back met the wall. I have fallen before. I don't intend to make it part of an argument. Food became choreography. Maura set a wedge of salad on my plate and offered vinaigrette from a glass bottle without a seal. Just a drizzle for your heart. I thanked her and reached for the lemon I'd watched her cut. We talked about the heat and tourists. The papers waited within reach, patient as a trap that believes in itself. It just gives us flexibility, Maura said, tapping a paragraph that used the word safety twice. If there's an emergency, we can move quickly for you. You always taught us to be prepared, and I still believe in preparation, I said. Daylight witnesses my reading lamp tomorrow. Together, they catch errors. I folded my napkin a small truce. My phone buzzed one pulse. I stepped to the hallway sconce and checked the screen. My chart showed my cardiology follow-up canceled by patient. I had canceled nothing. I opened the log, made a screenshot, and noted the tiny line of IP and time. Age is not an alibi for ignorance. I saved the image. A second buzz. The parish app pushed the weekend bulletin. The donor board for the pantry freezers now read, The Ellery Family. Last month, my name had been the donor of record. The absence was loud. I saved that too. Back at the table, I set the phone face down. I'll reinstate my medical visit tomorrow, I said lightly, and I'll call Father Kendall about a captioning error on the donor board. Easy fixes. The sentence was a ruler laid straight. Lyle's jaw worked. Shanda's fork paused. Maura glanced at the bottle and then away. We're only trying to help you not worry, Maura said softer. If we sign the basics, we can carry the load. Relief comes from clarity. Not ink, I said. If the basics are basics, they will stand in daylight tomorrow. I took another sealed bottle from the fridge and watched Lyle open it in front of me. Palm up a joke. Dying unsaid. Mom, he tried the timing matters. If you could just tonight would simplify things for everyone. For whom I asked in my head. Out loud, you have a utility due Thursday. About $400. Manageable without my signature. If you need a short bridge, we can write a note. I've done that before. He blinked, surprised I remembered what I taught him. I drank under the hallway light and texted Asha our word. Her reply came quick. Hold, stay ordinary. I breathed until my stomach unclenched and returned with my plate and my steadiness. I'll bring my glasses tomorrow, I said, and we'll read one page at a time. I'll also bring a lamp. These bulbs make the print smear. True enough. The warm Edison bulbs were better at mood than clarity. No one needs to decide anything tired. Lyle arranged a gentleman's smile. Dinner first then. He stacked the pages into a tidy rectangle, but left them near my elbow, a quiet dare. I slid them the width of a spoon away. We ate. I praised the basil. Shanda mentioned a podcast about minimalism. Maura asked if I'd felt dizzy at the beach and whether I wanted one of her capsules. Water works for me, I said, and rest. I used the word rest the way nurses do, kind but final. About your appointment, Lyle ventured, maybe we moved it because you didn't seem up for the drive. We were just looking out for you. His voice tried for casual and landed on control. "It's already reinstated," I said. "If I need a ride, I'll arrange it. Neutral, flat a line you can place a plate on." Silence settled, edible as bread. In it, I kept a ledger, only I could see the date and sum he'd blurted. The bottle pushed but unopened by me. The appointment that vanished and reappeared. The parish erasure of a widow's name. The rug at the stairs no one had taped. Alone, none carries a case. Together, they draw a map. I set my fork down. "Let's have coffee here tomorrow morning," I said with better light. "I'll bring cinnamon rolls. We'll go through the pages at a decent pace. No rush." I stood to refill my water and saw Shanda's glance catch on that rug again, quick and involuntary. When I sat, I weighed the bottle in my hand. The next step needed someone who would ask cleaner questions than a mother can ask her own children and still have a home to leave. My phone lit with the scheduled call back from the bank. I let it ring twice so no one would think it odd, then carried it back to the table where plates and papers created a picture of family that looked right until you listened. I kept my fork busy without finishing much. The greens were fine, the basil bright, but my appetite had narrowed itself into a line I could balance on. To my right, the paperwork stayed where Lyle had nudged it, the neat stack pretending to be a second-place setting. I checked the time without looking like I had. 9 o'clock was a quiet drumbeat at the back of my head. My phone gave the single buzz I'd arranged. "Let me just confirm a utility auto pay," I said, cheerful as if I were announcing pie. I stood with my water, not the coffee Shanda had offered, and stepped into the hallway where the sconce threw a neutral cone of light. From there, the mic could still hear a room full of family, but no one could read a thing on my screen. "This is Martha," I answered. "Good evening, Mrs. Ellery. Avery Sloan with fraud monitoring at San Diego County Credit Union." Calm voice, West Coast cadence. "You asked for a check-in window around now. Are you in a safe place to talk?" "Yes," I said, and watched my reflection in the black edge of the screen keep its small, ordinary smile. "We're seeing a pattern worth confirming," Avery went on. "Multiple pending transfers scheduled in sub-100,000 increments, 98 to 98.5 each, queued from a new device and location. None have posted. I want to make sure that was you." It was not, I said. I don't schedule large transfers in slices. I let the word slices sit there like something you could cut your mouth on. Understood. Our policy is to require a formal video verification with you personally on camera with photo ID for any transaction over 100,000 and for device changes. No proxies, no speakerphone authorizations. We can do a test run at 9:05 if you like to establish a baseline. I ask the best dumb question I know. Do I need my kids to help me with that? For security, it must be you alone, Avery said. We'll ask you to hold your ID next to your face and read a line of text. Takes under a minute. Book me for 9:05, I said. Call this number. If I don't answer, try once more. If I still don't answer, freeze anything over 1,000 and flag the device. Scheduled, Avery said. I'll text a confirmation with our callback code. Thank you, I said. And we ended the way bank people end tidy documented. I smoothed my blouse and walked back as if I'd been checking a recipe. Harmless billing thing, I told the table settling in. Lyle reached toward the papers, testing whether I would let them migrate. I folded my napkin instead, a small choreography that returned the stack to stillness. The phone lit again, almost immediately Seaside Pharmacy caller ID clean as a bell. I let it ring once so no one would think I was jumping, then lifted it. I'm so sorry, I said to the room, this will be quick. 2 paces back put me under the same pool of light, the family at the edge of my peripheral vision, the mic with a good ear on the room. Mrs. O'Leary, a woman asked, this is Dr. Rima Patel, lead pharmacist at Seaside. We're calling to verify a prescription combo we received today, as it includes a benzodiazepine on top of a heart support supplement. The pickup was requested by a family contact who is not listed on your file. I did not authorize anything new, I said. What prescriber name is on it? She read a name I recognized from my clinic, then a dosage that was not mine. We take combo interactions seriously, she added gently. Before we prepare this, I need to mark whether you confirm or deny. Please freeze the order, I said. Annotate, patient denies authorization. Retain logs, and if anyone attempts pickup, save video. Email me a confirmation note stating the time the combo listed and that you will only release to me with ID. Absolutely, Dr. Patel said. We'll put a hard stop on it and document the interaction now. You'll have an email within 10 minutes. Thank you for calling, I said, and meant it. Back at the table, I put the phone face down and met the oldest trick in the book head on: the kindness that comes dressed as correction. It's easy to mix up apps at your age, Maura said, trying for helpful and hitting something else. I appreciate the reminder, I said, which is why we'll wait until morning daylight and fresh coffee for anything with my name. I took a long drink of water I had watched come out of its seal. Lyle smiled without smiling. Shandah's eyes flicked toward the coffee pot as if wondering whether decaf could smooth anything out at all. In my head, the ledger wrote itself, transfers sliced, to dodge a threshold, a pharmacy order I never placed, a cardiology appointment that vanished without me, a donor credit that slid my name off a board. Care doesn't need to hide. Control always does. I felt the truth of it the way you feel a bruise under fabric, tender, undeniable. Quiet insurance rarely hurts. I opened my phone under the table edge and extended the cancel window on my time-locked email from 9:30 to 9:45. If I missed the bank's test call, the envelope's numbers and the short video I'd recorded would route to the priest and the attorney without me touching a thing. Modern banking hoops, Lyle said, leaning back like a man who could afford humor. They act like everyone's out to rob their own mother. Banks are equal opportunity suspicious, I said. They save money by pretending not to trust anyone. I let it land like a joke and saw the way no one quite laughed. We've got decaf. Shandah offered lifting the pot as if we were still only a family having coffee. I handed her my bottle. Water, please, I said. Would you mind cracking a new one? She did, twisting the cap so the little ring popped in the quiet. The room tightened a half-inch. Pressure without visible source. The papers breathed on the wood like a second set of lungs. I took out my driver's license and slid it into my pocket, an ordinary action with a private purpose. Then I nudged my chair so the front camera on my phone would catch my face cleanly beneath the kitchen pendant. I've got a routine bank check at 9, I said, as if it were a weather app I loved. It'll only take a minute. What kind of check? Lyle asked a shade too quickly. The kind where a stranger asks me to read a sentence out loud, I said, smiling. Something to do with their scripts. Mom, Maura said softly, you don't have to jump through every hoop tonight. We can make this easier for you. Her hand hovered near the pen again like a moth that knows where it's supposed to land. Easier is tomorrow, I said. Better light, clear heads. I glanced toward the stairs. The small rug still curled up at one corner, an accident waiting for a body to narrate it. No one had thought to tape it down. I kept my feet planted where no one could bump me and make a lesson out of gravity. My phone chimed its calendar reminder for 9:04. I felt rather than saw the way shoulders adjusted a fraction around the table. This will just take a moment, I said, lifting the phone and angling it so the front camera could read my face under their kitchen light. In the glass, I saw my own eyes steady and a family reflected around me like a frame that didn't quite fit anymore. I tilted the phone until the pendant light washed my face evenly, the camera catching more truth than flattery. My driver's license waited between two fingers. The sealed bottle of water sat within reach like an anchor you could drink. I breathed once through the nose the way I did before parent-teacher nights years ago and let my shoulders settle into the chair I'd already angled toward a solid wall. Avery came on screen in a little rectangle, neat bun blue backdrop, the cadence of someone who lives inside procedures and sleeps well. Good evening, Mrs. Ellery. Before we begin, I'll verify your date of birth and the last 4 digits of your Social Security, I answered. Thank you. For security, we ask that you be alone during this verification. Behind the camera, Lyle lifted his hands in a gesture meant to look helpful. We should stay just to help if Mom struggles with the tech. I left the call on speaker. Courtesy, I said lightly, then pointed to the floor. 2 paces back, please. I need space for the camera to focus. They stepped back still within the mic's soft ear just outside the lens. Bank policy prohibits third-party coaching, Avery said, voice even. Transfers above $100,000 require you personally to authorize on camera. Any pre-entered drafts in violation of this policy will be canceled pending review. I nodded like we were discussing weather patterns. Across the island, Maura's eyes flicked right, calculating. Shanda tapped her screen and darkened it the nervous little blackout people do when they realize light tells on them. "Let's prove identity," Avery said. I held my license beside my face, turned it slightly so the hologram flashed, then kept it steady while she compared letters to bone structure. "Thank you. Now we'll review recognized devices." She read a list. I recognized my old iPad and my phone. "There's also a new MacBook listed from a location near Pacific Beach," she added. "Do you recognize that I do not?" I said. "Please disable it." "Done," she said. "Final step. Please read the sentence on your screen." It popped up in a standard font. "I confirm I am Martha Ellery and no one is pressuring me to move funds tonight." I met the lens. "I am Martha Ellery," I read. "Some family logistics feel rushed tonight. I prefer daylight." The room went quiet at the word rushed, the way rooms do when polite fiction trips. Avery looked up from her notes. "Thank you. For my recording, can you clarify, have you been asked to authorize transfers this evening?" I didn't answer yet. I sipped the water I'd opened myself and let the quiet work as well as any question. Lyle misread silence as a hole to fill. "Thursday won't wait," he muttered, not to me. Maura's whisper stitched itself through the air. 380, a number like a cough. I kept my eyes on the camera. "For your record, I'm hearing mention of Thursday and $380,000. I said pleasantly as if I were naming cookies on a tray. "Understood," Avery said, professional voice warming by a degree. "Based on this verification and your statement, I am freezing all queued transfers and initiating our elder exploitation protocol. You'll receive written confirmation at your email of record within 10 minutes, including an audit trail for device access. Any attempt to alter the freeze will require your in-person override with ID at a branch." Maura's smile cracked at the edges. Shanda's thumb hovered over her dark screen, wanting a glow and not daring to light it. I let my gaze drift beyond the camera to the staircase. The little throw rug at the landing still curled a bad idea, asking for an ankle. I shifted my chair a few inches so, if I stood, the wall would catch me first, not the floor. "I'll come in on Monday," I told Avery. Morning. Then without changing volume, I let my words face the room. "And there will be no signatures tonight. Not a threat. A fact. Facts are funny. They weigh the same at any temperature." Just to be clear, Shanda tried. "Maybe you misread. Could you restate the policy for my family's understanding?" I asked Avery, smiling for the lens and the table. Avery obliged, patient as a metronome. "No third-party coaching. No proxies. Video verification by the account holder alone for any transaction exceeding $100,000. Pre-entered drafts from unrecognized devices are canceled pending review. A freeze has been placed at the account holder's request." The air thinned another notch. Pens looked suddenly sharp. Quiet little knives, designed to solve everything with ink. Avery closed with the clean cadence of done work. "I'll send your confirmation now. Anything else I can answer this evening? You've done exactly what was needed," I said. "Thank you." When the call ended, the hum of the refrigerator sounded like surf heard through a door. I set the phone down face down and let the relief pass through me without showing. Cool clarity, not triumph. I opened the bottle again just to hear the hinge of plastic reassure me. Lyle recovered first. "We only wanted to take that burden off you," he said softly, the way you'd talk to someone on a ledge. "It's heavy to keep up with all this." "I can carry what's mine," I said. "It builds muscle." I stood careful to keep my weight inside the stance of a woman who had already clocked the rug. The chair legs whispered against tile, and I felt the tug of potential stories, falls, dizziness, a bruise useful to a narrative. I denied them their prop with the simple act of not providing a body. Let's meet in the morning, I added. Coffee house, daylight. We'll bring nothing but questions and reading glasses. It sounded like an invitation and felt like a boundary. Mora pressed her lips together. Shanda busied herself with stacking plates that didn't need stacking. Lyle looked at the papers, and then at me, and then somewhere over my shoulder where I'd placed the wall between myself and the stairs. I gathered my purse, the sealed envelope thudding lightly against the lining like a second heart. I took one more look at the landing, not at them, not at their faces, but at the curl of fabric that said more than any expression could. People tell you who they are with the hazards they leave in place. On the porch, the air met me cool and salt-clean July in San Diego, doing its best to be kind. I let the door close behind my shoulder, felt the click pass through the bones of my arm, and breathed a long, private breath. My phone buzzed once the tone Asha and I had assigned to anything that changed the map. I didn't check it under the porch light. I walked to the edge of the step first, put both feet where the wood was sound, then looked. A screenshot slid into view, names amounts, and a contact saved only as Miguel. The numbers had a rhythm to them, 98.5, 98.5, 98.5. Slices. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, like a woman who had been part of the picture for years and had finally remembered she could step out of the frame. I typed a short reply to Asha received. Daylight. Coffee house. Across the street, someone's wind chimes started up with a little night breeze, tinny and sincere. I stood for one beat longer, long enough to feel the difference between fear and focus. Then I put the phone away, set my hand on the rail the way a woman does when she's done tripping over anything she didn't put there herself, and walked down to the sidewalk. Porch air and the screenshot 420 chars. Asha's screenshot shows a contact Miguel numbers matching 380. I save it and lock my screen. Lyle at the doorway soft clamp 440 chars. He asks me to come back in for dessert. I stay on the porch plank wall at my shoulder, purse across my body. Phone rings inside, speaker bleeds outward, 450 chars. Through the open door, a ringtone carries. Mora taps speaker. A man's voice, low and impatient, leaks into the night. Twist S11 ignites Thursday. No more stories, 500 chars. The caller says Thursday interest ticking. Cash or corrections. Lyle's tone goes brittle. I repeat one neutral word to mark it Thursday. The unguarded whisper 420 chars. Mora murmurs we'll have the papers. Shanda adds Mom will be calmer tomorrow. I memorize each cadence. I text one sentence to Asha. 420 chars. Names matched. Voice threatens. Corrections. She replies, copy. Do not re-enter. Twist S12 group text flashes on Shanda's phone. 500 chars. In the dark TV reflection, a preview banner shows cremation policy stairs, safer vitamin timing. I note words and sender. I choose the ordinary sentence 420 chars, I'm tired, dear. We'll talk in the morning at the coffee house. Good night. I step back, never turning from the doorway. The curbside handoff 450 chars. Asha opens the passenger door. I slide in. We don't celebrate. We list deadline amount threat language text terms. Twist S18 starts countdown on the time-locked email 500 chars. The email shows sends in 10 minutes unless canceled. I add more details to follow. Do not contact recipients yet. Home lights on shoes. Off mind on 420 chars. In my apartment, I check the deadbolt and set water to boil. Asha sits at the table with her legal pad, consolidating evidence out loud. 500 chars, I recount. Exact phrasing corrections. Thursday, papers calmer. Asha timestamps notes and adds the screenshot to our audio memo, choosing what not to do, 430 chars. We do not call them. We schedule morning coffee and protect the Sunday daylight pivot. The send or cancel decision, 440 chars. With 1 minute left, I keep the email armed, but extend 5 minutes to add the debt collector voice description. I set my phone face down. The morning air felt kind and exact. I chose a table against the cafe's wide front window, my back to the wall, the glare of early sun washing the street. Asha was already inside, half hidden by a newspaper. I adjusted the angle of my glasses. The micro camera was live, catching every reflection in the glass behind me. I ordered a sealed bottle of water and a plain black coffee. No cream, no sugar. Routine was my shield. One word to Asha Rolling, and she shifted the newspaper without looking up. They arrived together, the practiced cheer in their voices louder than the Sunday crowd. Lyle carried a thin folder, Mora, a canvas tote, Shonda, scanned the room like a restless sparrow. I greeted them with the calm of a church pew, steady and warm. If we must talk about paperwork, I said, resting my hands around the warm cup, we do it in daylight with coffee and only what I can read. Just initial here so we can simplify things, Mora said, sliding a page toward me. I let the silence breathe, not a refusal, not consent. I tilted my glasses as if to see better, and the tiny lens captured their faces, the slow movement of their hands, the heading on the page, POA Final. My phone buzzed once. A parish email blinked across the screen. Carol from the parish office, donor board edit request, submitted Friday by Maura Ellery. I saved the message, noting the time. The sting hardened into steel. Should I stop by Father Kendall's office after this? I asked, eyes on the folder. Lyle's glance crossed Maura's. It's already handled, he said too quickly. Another ping, a cloud history alert from my attorney's office. Someone had accessed my previous power of attorney draft from a device not mine. Autofill showed their names. I slid the phone face down. I read aloud a single clause from the document nearest me. Absolute authority over accounts and transfers over $100,000. No accusation. Just the words. It's only for emergencies, Maura murmured. Emergencies, I replied, are best handled with witnesses. I gestured to the broad daylight, the barista steaming milk the open street beyond. No signatures today, I said, gentle but immovable. We'll bring a neutral notary tomorrow. Shonda muttered Thursday's interest, and Maura whispered, we can't miss this window. The micro camera caught it all while my face remained calm. I folded the folder closed and slid it back across the table. Tomorrow, daylight official. I stood my coffee still half full. Asha stayed 3 tables away, just another patron with a newspaper. I stepped into the late morning glare with their folder unopened in my purse. The decision settling like a coin in a deep well. If daylight would not stop them, something sterner would. I agreed to the wellness check on my terms, a public clinic in daylight with Asha driving and waiting within sight. I wanted numbers on paper, blood pressure, oxygen, the quiet facts that don't argue. Baseline only, I told her, settling into the passenger seat. Nothing more than a snapshot. The Pacific Heights. Urgent care smelled like sanitizer and stale coffee. I picked a chair with a wall at my back and a line of sight to the exit. Asha cued at registration the folded printout of my insurance card between 2 fingers. My 3 arrived separately the way people do when they have agreed on a story, but not the timing. By the time the nurse called my name, they had coalesced by the ficus, murmuring logistics that pretended to be concern. Nurse Renee had the kind of voice that slows the air. Any allergies, shellfish, I answered. And I sign only what is medical. She slid the clipboard across the counter. I initialed the clinical consent and left the financial proxy fields blank. She noticed, said nothing, and placed a green wristband around my arm. Halfway through intake, Lyle stepped in with a sheet of paper too crisp for a Sunday. Dr. Klein thought this might help, he said, offering a printed note that claimed I was experiencing mild cognitive decline and should appoint a power of attorney today. The header copied the hospital's letterhead almost faithfully. Almost. Would you confirm this source? I asked Nurse Renee. Before it goes anywhere near my chart. She took the paper to the desk. A phone call, a hold tone, a longer hold tone. The answer was clean. No such visit, no such assessment. If you like, Renee said gently, we can scan it into your record as third-party material, labeled brought by family. I nodded. Paper tells the truth. It didn't intend. I spoke 1 sentence for the record eyes on the intake monitor. I do not consent to financial decision-making by family today. It sounded dull and useful, exactly what I wanted. Dr. Liu, the on-call physician, kept to plain language. Orientation questions, 3 words to repeat later. A quick clock draw. I narrated the beach, the text that told me to leave quietly, the sealed bottles I opened myself. The dinner that turned into a stack of pens. He listened without flinching. When he asked me to recall the 3 words I gave them back, in order then repeated them backward because I could. The door opened to Charge Nurse Alton and a woman with a badge that read, Patient Advocate Marcy Vidal. Alton set a form on a metal clipboard. Mrs. Ellery. He said some of what you've described meets criteria for possible undue influence and financial coercion. We're mandated reporters. An Adult Protective Services referral will be filed today. Maura's voice rose from the corner. We're just helping our mother. Marcy didn't argue. She explained. California law focuses on capacity and consent. Forged or misleading documents are documented. Pressure to sign financial papers during medical visits is documented. She asked to see the doctor's note. I watched the way her pen circled 3 phrases as she copied it for the packet. The lights flickered. A soft click ran through the nurse's station monitors, rebooting in sequence. For a breath, the room fell into the kind of hush that lets small truths slip out. We just need Thursday covered. Shandaw hissed, thinking the darkness could bury the sentence. My key fob recorder didn't blink. It kept rolling in my pocket, a steady red dot against fabric. When the power returned, so did the soft ordinary of machines. Marcy asked me to restate my preferences. Copies of all third-party submissions, I said, and no calls made on my behalf without me present. She nodded, noted the APS case number, and printed it for me like a receipt. My vitals came back unremarkable. Blood pressure a bit high from the weekend. Oxygen fine labs, unexciting. Hydrate, Dr. Liu said. Follow up with your primary. No acute cognitive concerns today. He said it in front of them, and that mattered more than any signature. At the door, Marcy handed me a slim folder, the APS reference number, a financial safety checklist, and a contact at my bank trained to meet older clients with a witness and a notary. Bring daylight, she said. Bring a neutral room. True. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner. I stood on my own purse strap across my chest, the packet tucked flat under my arm. Tomorrow, I told them, voice even. Bank office daylight with a notary. Nothing tonight. Lyle opened his mouth to suggest dessert, as if sugar could paste over policy. I stepped past him with Asha at my shoulder, and the doors breathed us into the July sun. Outside, the light felt honest. My phone buzzed with a calendar ping. Monday's bank appointment had just been confirmed from an account that wasn't mine. I opened the event and read the address they had chosen, not my branch, but theirs, 2 miles from the stair rug I hadn't tripped on. I deleted the entry, entered the correct branch, and added 2 names to the invite: the patient advocate and the bank's fraud liaison. The meeting note was 1 line long. Daylight Witnesses water opened in front of me. I slid the phone into my bag and tightened the strap, feeling the weight of paper and proof settle into place. I had walked into a clinic for numbers. I left with policy, a case number, and a voice that would not be talked over. I chose the branch myself. Asha and I arrived 10 minutes early when the La Jolla Marine layer still made the glass look kind. I asked the teller for a private room with windows, a notary, and sealed water opened in front of me. Routine words, but my voice carried the weight of yesterday's packet and an APS number I could recite without looking. Claudia the notary had square shoulders and a careful smile. She ushered us into a glass-walled office where the street traffic made its own kind of witness. My process is simple, she said, laying out disclosures. I confirm identity, willingness, and understanding. I may ask to speak to you alone. Please do, I answered. I set my purse at my feet where my shoe could touch the strap and slid my reading glasses into place. Angles and reflections. Daylight is a mirror if you let it be. They entered together with what Lyle called a simple packet. Maura's tote thumped the table, and Shandaw stood by the door as if guarding generosity. Claudia kept the pages face up. Before we begin, she said, I will first confirm identity. I offered my license. She wrote down the number, compared birth dates, and met my eyes. I nodded once. We understood each other. Next is willingness, she continued. I'll take a minute with Mrs. Ellery alone. The three protested at once. Tech help, moral support, efficiency. Claudia didn't raise her voice. My procedure is for her protection and yours. They stepped into the lobby, visible through the glass, their reflections doubled. In the quiet, I said the one sentence I had rehearsed, I am under family pressure. I want your full procedure. Claudia's pen paused. She pressed a small call button under the desk. A man in a navy blazer appeared at the door. Derek Soto, he said softly. Fraud and elder justice liaison. I'll observe. He referenced yesterday's APS number without my prompting and took a seat against the wall, hands open on his knees. I felt the room settle into structure witnesses, rules, daylight. We readmitted my three with conditions spoken aloud. No pre-signed pages, Claudia said. No blank fields. No coaching answers. If I suspect undue influence, I will refuse notarization. Lyle smiled too wide. Maura rearranged the stack. Shanda watched the reflections instead of me. It's just to streamline, Lyle tried fingertip on a tab. For emergencies, Maura added as if the word could sanctify the paragraph. Read it aloud, I asked slowly. Claudia lifted the top page and voiced the line that mattered, a grant of authority over accounts and transfers exceeding $100,000 effective immediately upon my signature. The cover page called the document Temporary Convenience. The inside page handed them everything. Claudia drew a neat blue bracket in the margin and wrote, Inconsistent. During a paper shuffle, while no one looked at anyone directly, Shanda leaned toward Maura and whispered, Once Thursday's interest clears, we're fine. She said it like people ask for more cream, nothing and everything. My key fob recorder ticked on in my purse. Derek's head turned a fraction. He had heard it too. Derek asked for a brief pause. He returned with the branch manager, a calm woman named Ruth. They didn't announce a verdict. They initiated a procedure. Ruth logged into a terminal, looked at the memo tied to my customer profile and said, Given concerns documented today and corroborating notes, we're placing a temporary hold pending senior review. No transfers above standard thresholds will process, and no new authority will be recognized until the review concludes. Claudia uncapped her stamp and then set it down. I am refusing notarization, she said steady. Capacity includes freedom from coercion. Today's environment doesn't meet that standard. Their backlash hit policy like waves against a seawall. Lyle's voice rose about family and inconvenience. Ruth didn't match volume. Mr. Ellery, the bank, is obligated by law and internal policy to protect senior customers from undue influence. You are welcome to sit, breathe, and review the appeal instructions, or you may step outside and cool off. But there will be no signing today. I pulled the sealed water closer, watched her break the cap, and took a measured sip. One sentence for the record, I said, looking at Claudia and Ruth, not at the three who wanted ink. Any future paperwork goes to my attorney and to Mr. Soto's office in daylight, with me alone in the room for the capacity check. I stood, slid my license back into my wallet, and thanked each of them by name. We walked out through the automatic doors into air that smelled faintly of salt and bakery sugar. My phone vibrated. Voicemail transcribed a message as we crossed the sidewalk. A voice I hadn't heard in years. Martha, this is Father Kendall. Carol briefed me. I think it's time you saw what was kept in Robert's old file. I stopped under the awning and let the ocean breeze cool the heat along my collarbone. There are lines I will not cross, and there are lines I will not let anyone push me over. Daylight had done its work. The rest would be paper dates, signatures that speak the truth instead of swallowing it. I turned to Asha. Lunch is on me, I said, and we laughed the small laugh of people who have carried something heavy to a counter and set it down without breaking it. Then the church, I added in Camden's office. The rectory's voicemail felt like a door swinging open in a quiet hall. I returned the call from the church lot, keys still in my hand. Father Kendall's voice was steady. Martha. Would you come by? Robert left something in 2021. He said there would be a day. The word day held warning and blessing. I told him I was on my way. St. Brigid's Rectory keeps an archive room off the kitchen. Carol Nguyen, the parish administrator, unlocked a shallow cabinet and slid out a gray box. Inside lay a sealed envelope and a 3x5 card. The envelope carried Robert's handwriting, angular patient. Carol set it on the table as if it could bruise. I broke the seal with my thumbnail. Robert's letter began with the gentleness he saved for me. If you are reading this, they have asked for what is convenient for them and called it care. You are allowed to be firm. He spoke to future Martha not as a victim, but as a steward of what we built. He predicted paperwork and urgency, the kind that makes a person small. You are not alone, he wrote. The day I feared for you is the day I prepared for. The index card held names and dates in blue ink. Attorney Elena Price. File code EJ777. Instruction. If July heat brings schemes, call Elena same day. A little box at the bottom read, Father K may confirm delivery. I checked it with Carol's pen and felt a small click inside my chest. Father Kendall folded his hands and told a memory. Robert Thinner, by then, had insisted the church hold the letter until she needs courage, not permission. He asked the priest to keep it safe from second thoughts. I touched the paper as if it could answer back. Inside the envelope was more than a letter. There was a notarized amendment Robert executed 2 years before he died, a conditional trust that wakes only when smoke is seen. The language was plain. If an elder abuse referral names me, if a bank flags unusual transfers, or if forged medical notes appear, then assets move into a protective trust with automatic notice to counsel and standing instructions to banks to freeze non-routine transfers, pending review, a pre-signed client direction authorized counts. The mechanism was a sentence I could say without fire. I believe undue influence has been attempted. Coupled with the APS number, the bank's hold, and the clinic's copies, the requirements were met. The letter even listed Sunday contacts and weekday filing routes. Robert had mapped the path so I wouldn't need to. I called Elena Price from the rectory kitchen where the signal was better. I summarized the urgent care visit, the mandated reporter referral, and the bank's refusal to notarize. Elena spoke like a good map. Clear lines, no drama. Bring the letter, your ID, and any confirmations. We'll activate EJ777 and notify all institutions today. I told Asha we were leaving. Carol pressed my hand. He adored your spine, she said. Elena's conference room smelled faintly of lemon and paper. She pulled a slim drawer and produced EJ777 Roberts' signed instructions, a roster of bank liaisons, and a ready-to-file petition for a temporary restraining order if pressure escalated. Her paralegal Jonah opened a blank exhibit list and began to type. We built the packet like adults setting a table. Exhibit A, the forged doctor's note copied and stamped by the hospital as third-party material. Exhibit B, the APS reference with time and date. Exhibit C, the bank memo recording yesterday's hold and today's refusal. Exhibit D, the audio clip in which Thursday's interest appears in Shanda's whisper. Elena added the parish email showing the donor board change with Maura's digital signature. Elena laid out a plan in plain English. Track 1, instruct each bank under the trust amendment to maintain holds and require my solo capacity checks. Track 2, notify APS counsel that her firm is engaged and coordinating. Track 3, keep the TRO petition ready to file if contact crosses into harassment or if anyone attempts to move funds. We can do all 3 today, she said, quietly. Then came the part that reached under my ribs. Robert had prepaid a legal retainer for the day they test your gentleness. On the receipt, he'd written, make it easy for her to win without shouting. Grief warmed me instead of hollowing me. Love is not always softness. Sometimes it is well-timed paperwork. I signed a current declaration in my tidy hand the way I taught the kids to sign their library cards. Jonah scanned each page and named the files as he sent them encrypted, addressed to every liaison on the roster. Elena CC'd herself, and Father Kendall noting the seal numbers from Carol's envelope. We watched progress bars move. In the lobby, Asha took my hand and squeezed twice. "He planned for you to win without shouting," she said. Outside late afternoon pushed the fog back toward the ocean. My phone buzzed with a new message from the family thread, "Dinner tonight, family decisions." I typed 2 words before slipping the phone into my purse. Public place. I stood there a moment longer, feeling the paper's weight without holding it. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need a raised voice, a kind that ties knots in the right places and waits. I had my knots now, letters, codes, names, dates. If they wanted decisions, we would have them, but in daylight, under a roof with witnesses, and with my voice unbent. I breathed and went. Ocean Terrace's patio smelled of salt and grilled fish when Asha and I arrived at 6:30. I asked the host for a foretop by the railing far enough from the bar to hear the surf. While I checked the view, Asha prepaid the bill and confirmed our code phrases, with the manager refill if we needed space dessert, if we needed a witness. They entered late sunlight gone soft on their shoulders. Adrian scanned the room with a quick military sweep. Celine carried a smile wide enough for a brochure. Bryn gripped her phone so tightly the case bent slightly. I stayed seated back to the ocean and lifted a sealed bottle of water. The first invitation to drink came with a flourish of wine glasses. "Just a toast," Selene said, but I shook my head. "Only sealed water for me." The manager nodded almost imperceptibly from the bar. Adrian leaned forward. A single authorization, "Mom," just to stabilize family affairs. Celine slid a manila envelope across the table like a secret she thought I'd crave. I kept my tone mild. "We're not here to discuss my money. We're here to talk about your choices." The ocean filled the pause, a steady hush that felt like support. Bryn tried the soft angle. "Dad would want unity." I met her eyes. "Your father left instructions for safety, not silence." I placed Robert's letter on the table, the salutation visible in his careful handwriting. "Your father prepaid my protection," I said evenly. "Tonight you meet it." 2 process servers approached as if summoned by the tide. Twist S24 unfolded without a raised voice. Each child received a neatly clipped packet, a temporary restraining order restricting financial contact notice of the activated trust, and an appointment for an APS interview. The restaurant manager stood nearby as witness pen in hand. Their phones lit almost simultaneously push notifications from every bank we shared. Attempted transfer declined elder financial abuse flag. My attorney Elena texted me a quiet confirmation. Protective holds active. I offered the only bridge left. You may still send written apologies, agree to counseling, and accept permanent no contact on finances. You have 1 minute. Celine scoffed. Adrian muttered about lawyer theatrics. Bryn raised her phone to record. Officer Diaz, plainclothes but unmistakable, stepped into view. "Recording is fine," he said evenly. "Intimidation is not." I stood leaving the envelope untouched. This is the last dinner you'll ever use to corner me. The check was already settled. I thanked the manager and walked out with Asha at my side. In the parking lot, the night smelled of seaweed and warm asphalt. My hands trembled once on the steering wheel before steadiness returned. Asha drove the long way along the dark water. We said little. The ocean carried the words for us. Morning light found us at St. Bridget's Overlook. I unfolded Robert's letter one last time and read his final line. "Choose life over loyalty to harm." I tucked it back into its envelope and breathed the clean, salt air. 3 months later, the outcomes were simple and sure. Banks honored the trust. APS closed its case with praise for the documentation. Civil negotiations moved forward without me. I funded the Quiet Harbor, a micro-grant for seniors planning their own protections, and Asha agreed to serve as coordinator. Holiday cards from the 3 came back unopened, except for a short note of prayer. I teach a Saturday workshop now, planning for peace, when family tests your gentleness. When I tell my story, I end where it truly ends, with a mother choosing her own future and keeping it.